Hey, Alabama basketball fans, we are back again for another episode of the Blue Collar Podcast. We wish we had better news to report after the game on Saturday night against Tennessee, but here we are, and we still have things in flux, a lot of things to discuss in this week's episode, a lot of decisions to be made coming up. We'll talk about that here with Emilee Smarr, as always. As I mentioned, Emilee is here from the Tuscaloosa News and Tidesports.com. Emilee, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. I finally got some sleep after an insane week last week with all the Charles Bediako stuff, and I'm ready for another sleepless week this week.
The controversy or the discussion has not stopped, and that's going to keep continuing at least until Tuesday and possibly beyond that. But we'll get into that. That's definitely one of our topics we're gonna go over here in just a few minutes. Want to talk to you first about what happened Saturday night. So Alabama plays Tennessee. They suffer a 6 point loss. We'll get into the historic aspect of that in just a minute. But more importantly, this is the second SEC home loss that the team has suffered. I did not have that in the cards for this year's team. What is your temperature gauge of the team, players, coaching? Do you sense any, I don't want to say panic, but obviously concern? What are you reading right now from the players and the coaches, given that Alabama is now middle of the pack in the SEC standings after 6 games?
Yeah, well, one thing that's kind of unfortunate just about the basketball coverage, compared to football is that we don't really get a vibe check with players every week. The only time that we really get face-to-face time with players is during post-game pressers. So you're either getting them, really excited because they just got a win, or they're very quiet and short. Obviously Charles Bediako, he came to the podium last night and he was great because he's had a lot of media training at multiple levels. Um, but yeah, I didn't necessarily sense panic, but I think that we forget that this is kind of similar to the place that Alabama was at around this time last year. There was always just kind of a sense of defeat because injuries were popping up left and right at this point. They didn't have Latrell. Now, obviously, last night, Latrell looked like he was back and better than ever after all the games of rest. So yeah, I think that they're just kind of accepting their reality, but also it almost kind of seemed like I don't know, it seemed very vulnerable almost just because you go out of your way so that way you can get a guy who's essentially supposed to be a solution for your front court, and you still come out on the losing end after all the hullabaloo earlier in the week. I mean, like, first you kind of become the villain of the country, like we talked about in the podcast last week. And now that you lose, you're kind of the laughing stock. I mean, that even was proven with the troll that the University of Tennessee did on their basketball account after the game.
There's no doubt that Alabama has been cast and will remain the villain the rest of the season, regardless of whatever happens Tuesday in that courtroom with an extension or ending the temporary restraining order. So all the national media, they're beating up on Alabama. All the opposing fan bases, they're having fun, especially after what happened on Saturday. It's just that we can go back and again, not an excuse, but truly an explanation. Yes, all of a sudden you get gifted some unexpected help in the front court, but my goodness, then you walk into it and you lose your second and third leading scorers, and you also lose the one player who's nothing but blue collar through and through, who probably would have drawn the assignment to guard Nate Oats a little bit. I don't know. How caught off guard were you as far as the Aiden Holloway and Amari Allen situation? Because everyone thought after having a week off of rest that this team was going to be ready, and here you go, two of your three starters out of the lineup.
Yeah, I was totally caught off guard because I mean, we had just had Coach Oats in press conferences earlier that day, and he gave injury updates, but at no point was there any forthcoming information about Amari or Aiden. And obviously, if he said after Tennessee, they both got hurt against Oklahoma. So if you knew that they got hurt against Oklahoma, you probably had an indication during the press conference earlier that day that they weren't going to be available. So why not address it?
I have never seen not just Alabama, but any basketball team be beset with so many combination changes, lineup changes, specifically due to just this rash of injuries. The only concern I have, especially in the case with Aiden, it seems to almost be chronic if it truly is the same wrist injury and it flares up, and there is concern. So appears like this, something like that with Aiden may not be going away. Now, when it comes to Amari, I have no clue exactly what the injury nature of that one is. I'm just surmising when it comes to Aiden. I want to ask this too from the Tennessee game. I will say at least what the fans saw, and I'm sure what the coaching staff got from Charles Bediako was for the most part really good. He came in, he scored, he had 2 blocks, he actually had 2 steals. But the one little surprise, and we talked about this, was the lack of rebounding. So considering he got 25 minutes, which was the most minutes of all the big men, I find that a little surprising. What are your thoughts about that as far as the rebounding front?
Yeah, that was what I decided to hit in my follow after the game because, I was fully expecting somebody to just be coming back and crashing the glass because, really and truly, you're coming up on 24. These guys are 19, 20 years old, and you're 7 feet tall. So maybe I had too high of expectations. Keep in mind, everyone, this is my first time experiencing Charles Bediako. I was not covering the team 22 through 2023 seasons. Yeah, so I was kind of surprised to see that, obviously I think that what he did offensively was great and, defensively otherwise it was good, but Alabama has a rebounding problem and he was supposed to solve that, which is why it was worth going through all of the lengths that they went to so that way they could get it back. And you still lose by a margin of 4 on the offensive boards. And I think it was 8 total in rebounds. So
In the limited time, obviously, this is his first game back since the 23 season. Haven't seen him in person in basically 3 years. He definitely looks more polished offensively. He looks, again, he's more physically mature. He looked really good offensively, and he did not look like he's out of any game shape. So, of course, we know he was still playing in the G League not long ago. So I don't think there's any concern about his conditioning. The defense, as far as blocks, was there. But you're right, the rebounding is a little disappointing. But if he gets an extension as far as his eligibility on Tuesday, I think you'll see that improve, and it's going to make for an interesting case study for the rest of the year. One of the things that I do want to touch upon, and again, this has been brought out quite a bit post Tennessee game from a historical aspect. Right now, I mean, Tennessee is an issue for this current Alabama program and for Coach Oats. They haven't beaten Tennessee since 2022. You've lost 5 straight now. This is now the second longest winning streak since back in 1968 to 1972 when they won 9 straight against Alabama. I want to pick your brain real quick. And what you've seen since last year and this year, you have now seen Alabama play Tennessee twice. What, in your opinion, just does Tennessee do that just frustrates Alabama and causes these fights in a phone booth? Because you can tell Tennessee gets to control the tempo every time they play.
This might be a controversial answer, but play defense. It's, I mean, really and truly, no matter what Alabama's version of defense is, its best defense is its offense. Its best chances are always outscoring its opponent. Tennessee brings a level of pressure and physicality that Alabama just hasn't been able to figure out. And also, yeah, again, it's just hard to think about last year to, the 3-point buzzer beater by Jemai Bishak. It was not good vibes after that game, and it was definitely not good vibes in the press conference after this loss to Tennessee, marking 5 in a row. Nate Oats
Well,
also confirmed it didn't feel good. So
yeah, well, Rick Barnes has figured out the secret sauce as far as how to negate Alabama's advantage offensively. Now, again, Alabama was missing 2 of their starters, and you can't convince me that would not have made a difference in a 6-point loss. I mean, just the presence of Aiden Holloway from ball handling and the threat of a 3-point shot takes some of the pressure off LeBaron Philon, and having Amari Allen out there just defensively takes some of the pressure off too. But, does that guarantee Alabama wins? Maybe not. You don't know. It's just, I'm sure Rick Barnes would prepare differently as far as if he knew those 2 were in the lineup. But heck, he didn't know Charles Bediako was going to be in the lineup until earlier in the week. So credit to him. He seems to have Alabama's number right now. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard to win a game whenever you only have 9 assists and then you have 7 turnovers in addition to those 9 assists. The ball movement just was not there.
No, the ball stuck quite a bit. You saw a lot of heavy dribbling and not the movement and the free-flowing offense that you're used to seeing right now. And again, Tennessee knows how to gum it up. And look, they're smart. They know who to attack, they know who to pressure, and they know who to lay off of. So that's pretty obvious. All right, Bediako, we already touched about the highlights. What is your schedule going to be on Tuesday? So we know that there's going to be the hearing on Tuesday. What is your plan on coverage this Tuesday for all the events, plus with a game that night?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Definitely consuming energy drinks while doing it. Lots of coffee. No, but on a very serious note, going to be at the courthouse, just being there for live coverage while everything happens, but also, examining, okay, well, this is what the front court looked like without or with Bediako, and this is what it's going to look like once again without him. It's not like we saw what it looked like without him, not just like a couple of games ago. So we'll pretty much know what we're going to get. But obviously, yeah, I'm not really expecting whether or not he's available to make that much of a difference here, especially based on the fact that Alabama still lost to Tennessee. I'm not saying that he was supposed to really be the be all end all solution for the whole game, because obviously Aiden and Amari were out too, which made it made that a really hard basketball game to win. But yeah, I had higher expectations.
When it comes to the court ruling on Tuesday, again, I'm not a legal expert. I have no background in the legal system, but I would just, on a hunch, believe that if Coach Oates and Greg Byrne and the university and Charles Bediako's legal team were going to put all this effort in and understand all the negativity, all the beating you're going to take from the national media, they wouldn't do this if they didn't think they actually had a good shot. And what I mean by a good shot is that at least get eligibility more than just one game. Now, whether that means that he plays the rest of the season and Alabama goes to the tournament, who plays in that, we don't know. But I would think that there at least would be a few more games left before we see the end of this story. That's just me. Again, I don't have any insight. I have no prior knowledge. So I'm just basing it upon that, because that's a lot of effort to go through to get one game against Tennessee. That's just the way I kind of view things. All right. We did touch about a little bit on the injuries. I just want to ask your gut feeling on this one. Do you think there's ever going to be at least a 2-week stretch for the rest of this season where Alabama's going to have everybody they want available out there? And I'm not talking about Collins, Davion, or maybe even Keaton. Take those three off the table and give me everybody else. Are we going to get that?
2 weeks is a lot to ask.
I know. That's why
we can't go 2 days. Yeah, as disappointing as this is, and I mean, it's disappointing for me too, because gosh, I don't enjoy writing all these injury reports. Okay. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna get that. I don't think that, because here's my thing. I also have the hunch that there are a lot of injuries that go unreported that we don't know about. We only know about what we absolutely have to know about. Now, that could just be being a, tinfoil hat skeptic. I don't know. But the injuries are insane. And I don't know that you would know the answer to this better than I would, but I don't know that there's ever been a team this injured.
No, not look, even through the entire tenure of Nate Oats, they have had a few injuries here and there, and you've seen players linger, and you've seen the late debut. I mean, you can go all the way back and look. In 21, you had the injury to Jordan Bruner at Kentucky, which really hampered the postseason chances for that team, because I think you healthy Jordan Bruner, Alabama possibly gets to the Final Four, maybe even makes a decent run for a championship in 21, because that was a really good team. But you lose Jordan Bruner, but that's one of the key injuries. Herb had a few bumps and bruises through there. Look, in 23, the most significant injury delaying a player was Dom Welch. He didn't make his debut until Mississippi State. And then you have the injury to Brandon Miller. He had the groin injury in the SEC tournament championship game. It hampered that team. I mean, Chris Youngblood last year. Again, we're talking about one or two players. Now we're talking literally at any point 3 to 5 players. I've never seen an injury report just change so rapidly and so unexpectedly from day to day till the day of the game. So I do understand that it causes issues in the fact that how do you gain any kind of chemistry or cohesion out of that when you don't even know who's going to play? I would like to think, and I'm going to try to remain positive, that at some point, this is the end of January. I would hope that maybe by mid-February, they can get it all together and you go on a healthy run to end the season. Now, am I being very optimistic and hopeful, absolutely, because we haven't seen any evidence that this team can do that from that standpoint. But I'm going to hope that's the case. And I'm not saying they're giving up on the SEC regular season, but I think a lot of fans are putting in the fact that thinking the same way I am. They just want the team to get healthy and go on a late season run in the postseason. I think that's what a lot of fans are thinking right now. They're not giving up on the team, but they want to see what this team can do with everyone there. And they have the belief and they have the hope that if that's the case, and you can get to that level, this team should be a team that you don't want to play in the NCAA tournament. That's just me. So we will see about that. Nevertheless, you're going to have a press conference. Well, you're going to have a press conference tomorrow with Nate Oats. So I'm sure you'll have plenty of good questions. What are you looking for from Coach Oats tomorrow in his press conference?
Yeah, I really want to ask him just, if it was a one and done night for Charles Bediako, what does that mean for, not only Charles, but just this Alabama team moving forward? Obviously, that's going to continue to really be the buzz of the season. Even if Charles isn't on that floor, nobody will ever quit talking about the fact that that was something that Alabama tried to do this season. Even whenever this team goes to the NCAA tournament, that's going to be the big conversation, just to remind, the country that hasn't been watching college basketball all season that, hey, this happened. I think that this does kind of have more implications than maybe Coach Oats is thinking at this moment. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze or anything like that, but I think that, obviously his focus is exactly on what it should be, which is the season. So maybe we're not looking at the grand scheme of things, but I think that it's maybe opened up some avenues that are going to make not just tomorrow's press conferences, but a lot of press conferences moving forward maybe a little bit more difficult.
It's definitely going to, well, again, last Friday's press conference, very interesting, which I actually thought Coach Oats handled very well. So
very well.
That was one of the, considering all the controversy and all the national outcry, I thought he did a great job from a public relations standpoint, the way he took control of it, the way he answered the questions, and how consistent he was with the message. So I thought that was really, really good. So and credit to him and Alabama for doing that, because there have been times in the past where maybe they didn't handle it quite the right way. So they obviously have learned from past mistakes when it comes to taking control of the narrative as far as the national outcry is concerned.
And that being said, I think that we're going to learn a lot based on how the university responds, given what the verdict is on Tuesday.
Let's just say a lot of people are going to be looking for your tweets on Tuesday. Yeah, as far as how things happen from that standpoint. Although I'm trying to remember, do they allow have cell phones in the courtroom? I don't know if you can do any live tweeting. I don't think you'll be able to. I'm not sure. You might have to excuse yourself and go get your phone from downstairs.
Yeah, bathroom break, Twitter break.
All right. I saw today the university bumped up the Tuesday night tip time for Missouri. So, originally it was going to be an 8 p.m. game. So they did bump it up to 7, which is actually the time that most people prefer for a midweek game. Let's just go old school. Yes, let's go old school. 6 is too early. 8 is too late. 7 is the sweet spot. I hope for the fans that came out Saturday, don't give up. Come out there. Now, let's just focus on Missouri. Let's get past all the other stuff we can't control that you're going to be covering on Monday and Tuesday. Give me the urgency level of this Missouri game at home on Tuesday night.
Must win. Yeah, you got to get a home win. You can't let that streak go to 3 games. This home crowd needs a win. Alabama needs to remember that it can win at home before the rest of this stretch comes up. Obviously, got to guard Mark Mitchell. Can't let him have a repeat of what he did last year for Missouri to beat Alabama. That's another point of contention here. This would be Alabama's second loss straight to Dennis Gates and company. So I think that this one, you got to win it, because otherwise you're heading into a really tough slate that continues with Florida and Auburn with 2 straight losses on your shoulders.
There's no doubt. I mean, I don't even want to talk about the Florida game that's coming up this Sunday, because you need to get through Missouri first. And this is a dangerous Missouri team, which has beaten Florida, and I think beat Oklahoma on a last-second shot. So they got them last year up in Columbia. They got Alabama at the right time and took it to them pretty good. Whether that has any resonance for this week, I'm sure it probably doesn't. I think that's just the most important thing is This is a home game. Alabama can't afford to lose any more home games. I mean, that's the bottom line. They've got to win the rest of their home games, and they're going to have to steal more on the road, which is a tall task right now, considering you're only 6 games into the conference schedule. I will touch upon Florida just for 1 second. We all know Alabama goes to Florida, not on Saturday, but on a Sunday noon game. And obviously, Todd Golden had his opinions as far as the Charles Bediako situation. What are your thoughts too? Because Florida is the second team that also has given Nate Oats issues. So between Rick Barnes and Todd Golden, you're going to get both of them basically within a 1 week span. Probably not the best timing.
It makes it fun to cover for sure. I'm very excited for this game now, especially knowing how competitive Oates is. I mean, I know that he says that he doesn't really use social media during the season, but I'm sure that someone will make him aware of the fact that Todd Golden said that. So who knows? Maybe Alabama comes out and goes a little BTA at Florida just because they have the inspiration, the bulletin board material, if you will. But that being said, am I hedging my bets on that happening? Absolutely not. Unless this team magically heals up over the next week. Yeah, this we're about to learn a lot about what this team is made of, I think.
Well, there's no doubt this stretch, and we talked about it last week. Started with Tennessee, you had 3 or 4 games at home. We said that you needed to hold serve. Well, they've already had serve broken, so now you're going to need to definitely win Missouri. Maybe you can pull off an Auburn miracle and go down to Gainesville and get a win. And then your reward for that is, well, you get Bucky Ball and the Texas A&M Aggies, who everyone predicted to be leading the SEC at this time. So there you go. I agree with you 100%. We're about to really find out how much this Alabama team is going to sink or swim during the regular season, because this is a pretty formidable task coming up. But we knew that was the case. So it's going to be, let's just say this. It's going to be fascinating, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be compelling. Through it all, you will have stories to write. I can assure you, Emilee. How about that?
Yeah,
So,
I absolutely will. I can't wait. I think that I'm already at 100 articles for this month, and that didn't happen for me until February last year. So I can't wait.
well, whether we like it or not, the eyes of the nation are upon Alabama basketball, and they will be on the Alabama basketball, especially Tuesday for this upcoming court ruling. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Blue Collar Podcast. We covered a lot of very interesting topics. It's going to be a very, very interesting week. A lot of decisions, a lot of things that hopefully will be answered as the week progresses. And as always, we'll be back here next week to both recap that and do the next look ahead. Emilee, as always, tell everyone how they can keep up with your work, especially this week, because you're going to be a must follow this week with all the activities on tap.
Yeah, so of course, you can always find me on X, formerly Twitter, whichever you want to call it, Emilee_Smarr. You can also find me on Instagram, Emilee Smarr Reporter. Also find me at the Tuscaloosa News. That's where all my stories are. Just head to the staff directory, find my name, click the link, and you will find every single article that I write there. And boy, are there a lot of them.
And there are going to be a lot more this week. So I encourage everyone to keep up with what she's posting on the social media, and then also follow up with the in-depth articles that are going to come out. Like I said, it's going to be a very, very, very newsworthy week for a lot of people that cover the Alabama basketball program. And as always, as I mentioned here on the Crimson Crossover YouTube channel, please, if you love Alabama basketball, keep following, watching, like, subscribe. We got podcasts galore for you. They're also going to start cranking up the Weekly Joe. Baseball season's right around the corner, so you'll have that with that team. They do a great job. Again, it's a lot of fun. Come join the ride. Like, subscribe, be there with us. And as always, Emilee will not say it even when she comes out of the courtroom, but I will say it. Roll Tide, and we will see you again next week.